I ranked every whiskey Costco sells under its own name. 10 bottles. One won a gold medal. One is almost certainly Crown Royal in a different bottle. And number 1 may come from a distillery that charges $1,500 for its own label. Worst to best. Number 9. Kirkland Signature Tennessee Sour Mash Whiskey. Around $15 to $18, and prices move by state, so treat every number in this video as something to check against your own shelf. Why is it last? One reason. Proof. This is bottled at 80 proof, which is 40%, the legal floor. It is 4 years old. The mash bill is roughly 70% corn, 15% barley, and 15% rye, and it is charcoal mellowed the way Tennessee whiskey has to be. So what do you get? Caramel, leather, walnut, and maple on the nose, and then it just stops. Medium-bodied, dry, over quickly. One reviewer summed the problem up exactly. A mixing whiskey needs either higher proof or younger, louder character to survive the mixer, and this has neither. It exists because Jack Daniel's exists. That is the whole design brief, and it is not aimed at you if you drink whiskey neat. Put it in an old-fashioned, and it is fine. Put it in cola, and it disappears entirely. Everything above this on the list has something the Tennessee bottle does not, and the next one has the least of it. Number 8. Kirkland Signature Irish Whiskey, around $20, 4 years old, bottled at 40%, and it is the most anonymous bottle in the entire Kirkland range. Wine Enthusiast reviewed it, and the notes are honest. A honey color, a gentle floral nose, a palate that is fresh and bright, and a finish with a little vanilla and a touch of smoke. Nothing wrong with any of that. So why is it down at number 8? In a blind taste test, half the tasters could not tell it apart from Jameson. Sounds like praise, does it not? Think about it for a second, and it is not. Jameson is the bottle this is trying to undercut, and Jameson is already the most inoffensive Irish whiskey on the shelf. Being indistinguishable from the safe option means they built the safe option again and saved you $5. The next bottle has exactly the same problem and gets away with it completely because of who it is copying. Number 7. Kirkland Signature Canadian Whiskey. Around $20 for a full 1.75-liter bottle. 6 years in oak. Vanilla, cinnamon, clove, and toffee. And a bottle that is doing something very deliberate to you. A reviewer at Men's Journal ran the color codes on the Kirkland bottle and a Crown Royal bottle side by side. Every shade of purple on both came back as a variation of the same color. Russian Violet. Both use a custom typeface, and the same alternate font shows up as an option on each one. That is not an accident. That is a design brief. Does the liquid hold up? Partly. In a BuzzFeed blind test, 4 out of 10 tasters thought the Kirkland was Crown Royal. A Denver bar owner described it as thin, dry, and high-pitched, with slightly more spice than the real thing. But the finish falls apart on you. The flavors fade fast, the rye heat arrives, and almost nothing lingers. On ice, it improves noticeably. In an old-fashioned, the bitters take over completely, and the whiskey vanishes. Crown Royal costs close to $40 at that same Costco. This costs half that for twice the volume. If you are mixing for a crowd, can you argue with that? Not really. Which is the exact same argument the next bottle makes, except it makes it better. Number 6. Kirkland Signature Blended Scotch Whiskey. Around $10 a liter. Read that number again, $10. A liter. That is roughly $7 for what a normal store hands you as a standard bottle. The reference point here is Dewar's White Label, and that is not my comparison. It is the one that keeps coming back from people who taste blends professionally. Sweet, malty, grain forward. Toffee, apple, ripe pear, a grassy honey note underneath. What will surprise you is the structure. Cheap blends usually taste like four things arguing. This one does not. It holds together. Where it falls down is the back end. The finish stops abruptly and leaves a slightly sour, cooked grain note, and the slower you drink it, the more obvious that gets. That is young grain whiskey showing up late. So do not sip this one. What is it for? Scotch, soda, a lemon peel, plenty of ice. In that glass, the problem disappears completely. A liter gives you about 22 highballs. You are drinking for under 50 cents a glass. Now we cross into the half of this list, where the bottles stop being cheap alternatives and start being genuinely good whiskey. And the first one is the one that disappoints people most. Number 5. Kirkland Signature Small Batch, Kentucky. Straight bourbon. 46% alcohol by volume. This is the bottle where Costco breaks its own rule for you. Costco keeps the source of almost every Kirkland spirit secret. On the bourbon, they did the opposite. They put the distillery on the packaging. Barton, 1792, in Bardstown, Kentucky. The oldest fully operating distillery in the state, running since 1843. So you know exactly what you are drinking, and that is precisely why it lands at number 5 rather than higher. Knowing raises the bar you hold it to. What is in the glass is caramel and vanilla, with the bold rye spice that runs through everything Barton makes. There is a sweetness up front that some tasters read as fruit punch. The palate is thinner than the price, and the pedigree promised you. And there is an alcohol burn on the finish that the proof does not really justify. Is it a bad bottle? No. It won silver at the 2021 Whiskies of the World Awards. It is a bottle that is beaten by its own siblings, which is a strange thing for a product line to do to itself. And one of those siblings is about to make the case for this entire video. Number 4. Kirkland Signature 12-year-old blended Scotch. Around $40 for 1.75 liters. Do the arithmetic before you read the tasting notes, because the arithmetic is the argument. That is a 12-year age statement on more than 2 standard bottles worth of Scotch for $40. Call it $17 a bottle. What does a 12-year age statement actually promise you? That the youngest whiskey in there spent at least 12 years in a cask. Not the average, the youngest. Everything else in your glass is at least that old, and probably older. Now look at what a named 12-year-old blended Scotch costs. Johnny Walker Black is around $30 for a single bottle. Chivas Regal 12 is in the same territory. You are paying a little over half per bottle for the same age commitment. The liquid is soft, honeyed, and malty, with dried fruit and gentle oak spice. And unlike the entry-level blend at number 6, the finish actually stays with you. Is it complex? No, and it does not need to be. It is a 12-year-old Scotch at the price of a young one. This is the bottle I would hand somebody who says Scotch is too expensive. Quick thing before the top 3, because the top 3 are where this list stops being about value and starts being about actual quality. The data on this channel says over 80% of you watching right now are not subscribed. You are showing up for the content, and the algorithm has no reason to hand you the next one. If you have made it this far, you clearly care what you are paying for. hit subscribe. Number 3. Kirkland Signature Bottled in Bond Bourbon. Between $29 and $38 and 109 proof. Bottled in Bond is the strictest label in American whiskey, and almost nobody knows what it guarantees. It comes from an act of Congress passed in 1897, when American whiskey was so widely adulterated that the federal government had to step in. To carry those 3 words, a whiskey must be the product of one distillation season, from one distiller at one distillery, aged at least 4 years in a federally supervised warehouse, and bottled at exactly 100 proof. Is there any marketing language in that? None. It is a legal guarantee, and it is the only one of its kind on an American label. In the 2021 Whiskies of the World Awards, this bottle won gold. Not silver, like the small batch. Gold. Then it gets better, because you get to know who made it. Barton 1792. Again, named on the packaging. What you get is vanilla, caramel, dried candied fruit, and a whiskey that starts soft and opens up hard if you let it sit in the glass for 10 minutes. But here is the detail almost nobody has picked up on, and it is the reason I want you to read your own bottle. In the spring of 2026, a new 1.75-liter Kirkland Bourbon appeared, and the distiller's name was gone. The label says it was distilled and aged in Bardstown, Kentucky, then bottled in Columbia, Tennessee. The bottler is a company called D.C. Flint, which has historically handled wine for Costco, not whiskey. Bardstown is not a small place. Jim Beam is there. Heaven Hill, Lux Row, Willett, Bardstown Bourbon Company, and Barton. So a line that used to name a distillery now names a town. That is a supply change, and it happened quietly, and it tells you the transparency on this range is a decision Costco makes bottle by bottle, rather than a policy. Number 2. Kirkland Signature. Single Barrel Rye. 60% alcohol by volume. 60%. 120 proof. From a store brand. When did you last see that? Single barrel means what it says. Not a blend of hundreds of casks assembled to taste identical every time, but the contents of one specific barrel, bottled on its own, which means variation. 2 bottles from 2 different barrels are genuinely different whiskeys, and that is the point, rather than a flaw. At 60%, you are getting the whiskey with no water added at all, or very close to it. That gives you a rye with real weight and pepper, and it does not thin out the moment you drop ice in it. It took silver at the same 2021 awards as its siblings. The reason it is not number 1 is availability. This is a rotating release rather than a permanent line, and if your warehouse does not have it, no amount of driving will fix that. And rotation is exactly what makes number 1 what it is. Number 1. Kirkland Signature Speyside Single Malt Scotch. Somewhere between $50 and $75 depending on the year. Costco has released this as a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old with a sherry cask finish, a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 23-year-old. An 18-year-old single malt with a sherry finish has sold for around $69. Now hold that against the rest of the shelf. What do named 18-year-old single malts cost you? They start at $120 and climb from there. So who makes it? Costco will not tell you. The bottler is a company called Alexander Murray, based in California, and their entire arrangement depends on never naming the distillery. They confirm the region. That is all. Which is why people have been guessing for 2 decades. And for the sherried Speyside releases, The guess that keeps coming back from serious collectors is Macallan or Aberlour. Now put two numbers next to each other. Macallan's own 25-year-old Sherry Oak sells for around $1,500. Costco has put 20-year-old and 22-year-old sherried Speyside Single Malts on the floor for under $100. Can anybody prove those are the same liquid? No. That is the entire design of the arrangement, and anyone telling you they know for certain is guessing too. But here is what is not in doubt. Somewhere in Speyside, a distillery with a very famous name is selling aged casks to a company in California specifically so that you never find out which one. And when the bottle appears, you get no warning. It sells out in weeks. That is why it is number one. Not because it is the best whiskey Costco sells, though it might be. Because it is the only bottle on this list where the gap between what you pay and what you are drinking is genuinely unexplained. One more thing, because it changes how you read this entire range. Every bottle in this video came from a real distillery, with its own label sitting somewhere on that same shelf, usually for more money. The Bond Bourbon competes with Barton's own brands. The blended Scotch competes with Dewar's. The Canadian competes with the bottle it was designed to look like, which means the industry's biggest producers are quietly selling against themselves at half price. And the only thing separating the two bottles is a name they are forbidden to print. I went through the 8 corporations that own effectively every whiskey brand you have ever poured, including the ones filling other people's labels. That video is on screen now. If this saved you money, subscribe. That is the whole exchange.